In today's video, we're going to be showing you 3 things that HVAC contractors don't want you to know about, meaning they make a lot of their money by doing these 3 simple things that any homeowner can do. So with that, let's jump right into it. Okay, so tip number 1 has to do with your airflow, and what regulates that airflow is your blower motor and also your air filter. So the biggest thing is just keeping your air filters clean. So I wanted to show you what I have set up here. So this is a 4-inch filter rack. And as you can see, a lot of stuff gets caught up in here in your filter, especially when you have dogs. And so this is a 4-inch filter rack, but this one is relatively new. And as you can see, it's already collecting fur and whatnot. But more importantly than the filter itself is the filter rack. So this is a completely sealed off filter rack, and you can see a lot of stuff on this side of the filter rack. Whereas on this side, a very minimal amount of debris. And you want to keep that not only out of your blower wheel, but also out of the coil up here. So another thing you can do revolving around your air filter is pull off the cover of your coil. This is the evaporator coil, and you can check and see if anything has built up inside of this A coil, in which case I have a separate video that shows how to effectively clean that out. Now, what'll happen if your coil gets clogged or if your air filter gets clogged and is not allowing enough air to go through the evaporator coil is your lines will start to freeze out here on the outside. So that's a good telltale sign. But if your evaporator coil is freezing, you'll see ice here around these pipes, and that's a good indicator that you have a clogged filter or an evaporator coil. Most of the time it's going to be your filter. And so my advice, if you go out to your system and you see that it's freezing up, first of all, just change out your filter and let the system thaw before, because you can't just continue to run this and expect it to thaw out. This evaporator coil in here can turn into a big block of ice, and it will just continue to freeze until you have good airflow. So what I recommend doing is going outside, pulling the disconnect for your unit or turning off the breaker just for the condenser, and just run the fan. That's going to defrost all of this ice that's built up here. And a lot of times you'll notice water coming out of here as it thaws out. That's totally normal. And once it's thawed out, then make sure you have a fresh air filter and see if that resolves your problem. Probably 80% of the time that's going to fix the problem. So try it out and see if it works. Now, if you don't have a 4-inch filter, or if you just don't want to run a 4-inch filter because these are pretty expensive, you can run a washable 1-inch filter like this one. This particular one is one that I like. It's made by Re-Air, and it has a few nice features. So this is basically a MERV 8 filter. It has the airflow direction here and a little tab that you can pull this out if you have a 1-inch filter rack. But as you can see, this would still work on mine because it's a 16 by 20, and the suction basically just holds it up like this. And if it fell over, it would be fine. It would just pull it back in like that. And this would totally work in a 4-inch filter rack. So if you have a 4-inch filter rack and you want to run these, you totally can. And if you have a 1-inch filter rack, you can get different sizes. This is a 16 by 20. And this is awesome because you can throw it in the washing machine. You can buy a 2-pack, so it comes with 1 frame and 2 of these filters. So while you're running the one, you can throw the other in the washing machine. Now, generally, a good rule of thumb is on these 5-inch filters, you can run these for about 6 months. But what you want to do is basically pull that filter out and hold it up to the light. If you can see a lot of daylight through it, you're totally fine. And this one is brand new, but you can use that same principle with a 1-inch filter and determine if you have more life left. If you have pets and you have a 1-inch filter, it could be every month that you need to be cleaning these or replacing them, but these ones make that really easy. Also, if you are interested in going with a Honeywell 4-inch filter rack, you can see we did it on this one. Before, this went straight down and we had a filter like up here somewhere, and it just was not sealed, and it got my evaporator coil so dirty even though I was keeping those filters changed. So we did a separate video, and it shows how we built this transition that goes over to the right and then into this filter rack. Everything is completely sealed, and you have a super long run time with these 4-inch filters. So if you want to check that one out, I'll make sure and leave it at the end of this video. Okay, so item number 2 is your condensate drain. This is a critical component of your HVAC system. So how it works is we have that air blowing through the system. this evaporator coil is getting nice and cold from the refrigerant that's going through it. It's basically capturing heat from the air, and as a result it ends up condensating, and this water comes out of your drain from your evaporator coil, and most of the time it goes to the exterior of your building. Sometimes it goes to an interior drain, like for me this is in my basement, so it goes down here to this condensate pump, pumps it all out of this little clear tube into one of my drains. But in a lot of cases, this will go outside to the exterior of your home. And we're going to show you an effective way to clean that condensate drain and to keep it clean. Basically, what can happen is if a dirt dauber builds a nest at the end of it, or if it just gets clogged with debris and stuff in the system that doesn't get trapped by your filter, this could end up with a clog, and water will get backed up into your evaporator coil. And then if you don't have a safety switch like this one, it will just flood the attic of your home or the basement. And so a safety feature like this is good to have. Basically, if this gets triggered, if the water goes above this point, it will turn everything off. Or depending on how you have it wired, it could just turn your air conditioner off to prevent it from continuing to flood. So let's hop outside and show you the most effective way to clear one of these condensate drains if it is clogged. Now, real quick, I wanted to mention today's sponsor, Alpine Home Air. This time of year, when we're just running our AC for the first time, we might find that that system needs to be replaced. That, coupled with us getting our tax refunds around this time of year, a lot of people are just thinking about replacing their system, and it's intimidating seeing the prices of that equipment. Alpine Home Air has your back. They have an awesome sizing tool that shows exactly what equipment you need. Also, their customer support is next level. They really want to make sure that you get the best price and the correct equipment for your system. You can purchase that for a way cheaper price than a contractor is going to give you. And then you can find a local contractor that's willing to install said equipment. So check out alpinehomeair.com. I'll leave a link in the video description and you can find it there. All right, so on the exterior of your building, this is what you're gonna see. Something similar to this. It's typically a 3/4 inch pipe, and you'll see water coming out of that. That's generally for your air conditioner. And the best way to clean this out, and we'll talk about some things you shouldn't do, but the best way is to simply use a shop vac like this. So you want to take out the filter on your shop vac and make sure that it doesn't have a filter, because you're going to get stuff that has water in it and you don't want that getting in your filter. But basically, you're just going to hold this over this. Mine is exactly the same as a 3/4, so I can seal it with my hand, turn the shop vac on, run it for a couple minutes. Or they make an attachment that goes from here to here for different sizes if you have a bigger shop vac with a bigger hose. And alternatively, for cheap, you can just tape this on with some duct tape and then take the tape off. So that's definitely the easiest method. Now, a couple of cautions here. You definitely don't want to take pressurized air and blow it in through here, because what can happen is if they haven't sealed those joints with glue up to your air handler or your furnace, you could have a blockage up here and you could blow one of those lines apart, one of those fittings apart, and have a leak once you turn the system back on. So I definitely don't advise using pressure. Sometimes you can blow on this with your mouth, and that's typically not going to create enough pressure to blow a joint apart, but it will clear a blockage. I've done that in a pinch, in which you need to go up there and clean out the pan if it's in an attic. But definitely the best way is with a vacuum. So absolutely do this once a year before you run the system and make sure everything is nice and clean. Now, while we're on the subject of condensate drain cleaning, I want to mention a product that makes this very easy, and depending on your application, this could be really valuable. So obviously I'm not going to install this on my system, as it just goes down here to the condensate pump. But my mini split, however, we just showed you, that comes out of the attic and goes out to that drain. If it was an easily accessible location like this one, and it went all the way outside to the exterior of the building, this is very easy to install. It's just 3/4 on each end, 2 female ends, and we would simply glue this in place. And the idea is very basic here. So we would simply turn this valve off, making sure that none of the water that we send into this can go back up into the coil. And when we attach a garden hose and turn the water on, it's just going to push all that water through the drain and clear anything out. You can simply hook up a water hose to it once a year, clean it out, and you'll be good to go for the whole season. These can be a real lifesaver, so I'll make sure and leave it linked right here if you're watching on TV, and again in the video description if you're watching on a desktop. Now, one other thing I wanted to mention here while we're talking about condensate drains is a drain pan treatment kit. So if you don't want to install a device to clean this out, you simply vacuum it out, and you can put something like this into the drain pan. I'll show you how easy it is. You simply drop it in just like that, and as soon as the condensate water hits that and drains, it basically is like a self-cleaning device. They make these in several different sizes depending on how big the pan is, and generally one of those things lasts the whole season, so super valuable there and super cheap. This is also a really good time to kind of inspect the coils and make sure that there's no debris. This is a N coil, so a lot of times it's just an A coil like this, and you have to pull this cover off. But it's nice because I can see the inside of this N coil. Everything is nice and clean, meaning that our air filter is doing its job and keeping everything out of this coil. Okay, so item number 3 is out here at the air conditioner, and this is by far the most common thing that I see as an HVAC contractor. It's such a simple device, and it gets overcharged by contractors so much. So the first thing we need to do is take off our electrical panel, and I wanted to show you this Malco bit. So this is a bit that is reversible. It's 1/4 inch and 5/16, and you can see how stubby it is, and this unit is really close to the wall, so this makes this one really nice. And this one is actually called a Pookie Buster. So if you have screws on your air handler that you need to remove that have a bunch of Pookie or silicone on them, this cuts right through it and allows you to take those nuts off. So as you can see, I can get in here really easy. Now, before we touch anything electrically, we want to locate the AC breaker and turn that guy off, and then we'll verify at the unit that there is no power. And then if you have a disconnect like this, all you have to do is pull this out, and then you can store it up here or flip it upside down, and that will take all of the power away from the unit. Okay, so now that we have our breaker and our disconnect pulled, we're going to just make sure that this hot pin works on an active outlet. And then we're gonna come over here to our AC unit, and we're just gonna make sure that none of these have any juice. All right, we're good to go. Okay, so now that we have the power removed, I just wanna show you what these devices are for. So this is called the contactor, and basically what it does is when you send a signal from the thermostat, it goes through these wires, which is 24 volts, and then tells this contactor to come on, and that allows this power coming from the grid, from your panel, into the compressor and the fan. Now, this is the other device, and this is the one we're gonna primarily be focusing on today. This is called the capacitor, and what it does is it initiates the phasing of the compressor and allows it to come on as it should. Now, when it fails, you could come out here and you can hear your compressor buzzing, but the fan is not spinning, or vice versa. Your compressor will not be making any noise, but the fan will be spinning. Or you can come out here and nothing is happening. Those are all indicators that the capacitor could be bad. And right here on the front, we can see a size. So each of these capacitors is different depending on the size of the unit. So this is a 1.5 ton unit. It's a 30-3. So the 30 part is for the compressor, and the 3 part is for the fan. We'll show you how this is wired. Again, it's very basic, but please understand that anything involving electricity, there is a level of risk here. So just make sure you're being safe and following these instructions very carefully. All right, so the first thing that we need to do, we're just gonna pull this up a little bit. As you can see, there's 3 contacts on this capacitor. And now that we have our power removed, what we need to do is discharge this capacitor because they can store a little bit of energy. So what we're just gonna do is jump these leads. Just gonna jump all of them to each other, and that's going to discharge this capacitor. Just make sure that whatever screwdriver you're using has a rubber end and you're not gonna get shocked. I've never actually been popped by one of these, but I think it's a good practice to discharge it just in case, because I've heard of others being popped by it. So now we're gonna take this, this little cover off here, or the piece that holds it in place, and then we can remove all of our connections. Okay, so we got this removed. We can go ahead and remove this little bracket here, and Basically, what we're doing is we're looking for anything that could tell us that this capacitor is bad. We're going to physically check it with our voltmeter in just a second, but there's a lot of things that you can look for right out of the gate as soon as you take this cover off. For instance, if your capacitor, if these pins are mushroomed out, they're not pointing straight up anymore, they're kind of pointed out at a V, that's a good indicator that it's bad. If you see the bottom of this bowing out and it's not flat here, also a good indicator. If you see oil coming out, that's a good indicator. So all of those things will tell you right off, yeah, this capacitor is probably bad, but we're going to show you how to, a fail-safe way of measuring this with a voltmeter to make sure that it's bad. Okay, so as you can see, these wires are color-coded on the capacitor, which is really nice. But if it's not, just take a picture or a video or make a note of what wire goes where. And then if all else fails, you can just look at the schematics and tell which wires go where. Okay, so now that we have our capacitor taken out, we're gonna take our voltmeter and we're gonna go to this setting here. We're going to change it until we see this UF sign here. And that's the terminal for microfarads. That's what we're checking on this capacitor. So yellow is generally your common. As you can see, these are labeled, so yellow is C. And if this wasn't color coded, you know, you would just know this terminal is C. This one is fan, that's typically the brown wire, and blue for hermetic. So what we're gonna do is check between common and hermetic, and what we should get is 30 plus or minus 5%, or for this one, 6%. So we'll check between hermetic and common. And as you can see, 29.7, that's within the parameters of 6%. And then if we go from common to fan, we should get close to 3, right on the money there, 3 microfarads. So this capacitor is good. Now, if you were to check this and it just said OL between common and hermetic, that would mean it's an open circuit. That means a bad capacitor. Or if you were to check this and let's say it said 25, that would be well below the 6%. So that would also mean that this is bad and you need to change it out. So a couple of things to note about capacitors. They typically fail on the first hot day of the summer. And a lot of customers are caught by surprise when this capacitor goes bad. And a lot of people don't even know what a capacitor is. I've heard these quotes ranging from $700 to $2,000 for this device right here. And you can pick this up on Amazon for about 20 to 30 bucks for a good US made one. So my advice is to keep one of these in your junk drawer, in your garage, and know how to replace it. And you can save potentially thousands of dollars by knowing how to do this repair. And if nothing else, just having the knowledge of knowing what a capacitor is and being able to coordinate with the contractor that I'm not paying that amount of money for an item that's $20 or $30. Now, being as these are very specific to your unit, what I highly recommend is just picking up a Turbo 200. These are about $75, so they're a little bit more expensive. But as you can see, this is a US made product and it is a universal that will go from 2.5 all the way to 67.5. So in this instance, let's say we need a 30-3 capacitor. All we would do is, this kit comes with these little jumper wires, and that's the beauty of it, is you can go from 25 and simply using addition, we're gonna add 5. That makes a 30. So with these combined, you have 30 microfarads, and the wire that used to go to the hermetic for the compressor, you would now connect on any of these terminals, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Any of the terminals that are connected with this wire, that will give you 30 microfarads. And then on the other one, we would simply use this guy right here for 3 microfarads. That would then go to our fan, and this can get you out of a pickle. And being as it's US made, this is going to last for just as long as any of these singular capacitors like this one. The kit also comes with a strap and a screw to attach it. So really versatile kit, and I highly recommend picking this up. If you're watching on TV, I'll leave it right here and then in the video description as well. All right guys, everything's back up and running beautifully and we're back in business. Well guys, I hope these tips help you to save time and money this summer. And if so, share this with a couple of friends and hopefully it'll help them save time and money as well. Now around this time of year, a lot of contractors are topping off refrigerant levels because they haven't been used through the winter months. But a lot of people are unaware that abilityrefrigerants.com is a website where you can ship smaller quantities of refrigerants like a 2-pound bottle and do that yourself. Now you do need to have your EPA certificate, and I have videos that show how to do that. It's a very easy process. You can save hundreds, if not thousands of dollars by doing that job yourself. So if you want to see that one, as well as the evaporator coil cleaning, I'll leave those videos linked right here. Until next time, you guys be safe. Later.